So we're finally here to the penultimate chapter in the Harry Potter series. I mean, at least in terms of books. It's the penultimate full story in the franchise. As usual, the blanket opinions on this film are maybe a bit muddled, so you may finish this review liking me or hating me. Probably hating me. Half-Blood Prince isn't that good. Or is it? I mean, well, maybe. You know, it's complicated. I try to have a catchy title for these reviews, but many times the thoughts on different versions as a whole differ, so I generally just put my thoughts on the film in the title. On to the segregated opinions of each version of the story. This is my second to least favorite novel in the series. It's still really, really freaking good, though. It's noticeably shorter than the last two, so the story was more easily streamlined for the screen. For the most part. I think it's a marked improvement over Goblet of Fire, and there's some stuff in here that I really love. So I'm going to have to start with that. By far the most interesting thing about this novel is the intense development of our main villain. For the last 5 installments, we've basically just known him as an overarching threat. Of course, we got Tom Riddle, the 15-year-old in Chamber of Secrets, but the keys to his motivations and evil nature are still for the most part a mystery throughout the first 5 installments. And here we get an in-depth look at them, and it's by far the best part of this book. We get to see his messed up grandparents and how they were connected to Slytherin. We get a rather interesting explanation for his emptiness and lack of the ability to love. He was a rape baby. No, seriously, his mom is a freaking rapist. She slips his dad some love potion, and the child that results from a fake infatuation such as that has no connection to what grounds humanity. We see that in how he evolves through life. He's an evil git through and through because he has no connection to what makes all of us actually worthwhile. Whether he could ever have been redeemed is an interesting notion. The closest we ever got to that being explored of all places was in the parody musicals.
Why don't you get out of here, too? You're not gonna want me. She's right, you know. I'm evil.
You are not evil, Tom.
Yes, I am. Mrs. Cole told me that my mommy died when I came out of her tummy.
But the way everything else, too, is explored about Voldemort's history, more than just the Horcruxes, I've always found immensely fascinating, including what he was doing in between his time at Hogwarts and the time he rose up into being a huge, powerful Dark Lord. This is the book where J.K. succumbed to amping up the romantic subplots way too much. In some cases it works, though. In others, it really doesn't. For example, Hermione turns into almost a different character in this installment. Some sort of bitter, heartbroken teenage girl that sucks much uniqueness out of her. Sorry, but she almost becomes kinda generic. Harry's inner monologue, where his penis urges are described as the monster within, are a little bit off-putting. But I do honestly like the romance between Harry and Ginny. She's a character that evolved over the course of the novels, from a shy girl with a crush to a confident, attractive girl with spunk. And even though his attraction to her almost comes out of nowhere, it does feel natural in terms of what she's beginning to represent. And a side note, if you're one of those dipshits who hardcore ships Harry and Hermione, fuck off. I mean, I would go into detail, and I will in my Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 review, but I want to keep this focused. In short, Harry and Ginny work perfectly together, and I'm very happy with what J.K. did with them. And I love the ending to it all in this book. How he does not end up staying with her. How he tells her that his enemies will come for her and he must sever her from his life. He walks off away from his redhead, spunky love interest, leaving her at the grave and... Wait a second, JK, were you watching a little too much Spider-Man while writing this book? Well, I mean, I'm not really complaining. It works really, really well as a sign of Harry maturely accepting the growing evils of his future. And yeah, I think it's a really great rate in this romance that sort of takes away, that just really cuts out the generic teen aspect of it. In total, this book is still really great. There's some annoying love subplots that don't work, but everything revolving around Voldemort's backstory, which is the main backbone of this story, really does. I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the novel, an 8.5 out of 10. Now this. I'll get out of the way. This is the worst one. The worst movie. It's the worst installment generally in the entire franchise if you count both the books and movies. I said, that one doesn't count. So yeah, I guess this film is still fine. It's moderately capable in several areas, and I like a lot of it. In fact, let's talk about the main element of this movie that really stands out. The music for this film is freaking fantastic. By far one of the best Harry Potter scores. What really sets it apart is how even if the scene itself is sort of worthless and overdramatic, the music is so damn good it almost makes it feel like it does mean something. It gambles the full range of emotion and overall just leaves me with so much in my head after I listen to the soundtrack. It also brings back more John Williams tunes than just Hedwig's theme, which I give much credit to. But the music really shines in the somber, moody pieces that give everything an explicit, ominous feel. Plus, the music played in the big climactic moment, well, let's talk about that when we get there. I can't decide if I like the cinematography in this movie or not. At some times I feel it works, and other times I kind of hate it. The overly dark atmosphere can be starkly beautiful, yet sometimes even at the same time rather useless. The place where I feel it most effectively works is the finale. The dark mood that is setting over everything is perfectly accompanied by the moody lighting. It just would be more effective if the earlier scenes, even the ones focusing on stupid teenage love triangles, were not similarly shot. We also get a pointless action scene that I would still be painfully aware that it added nothing new to the film, even if it hadn't read the book. It throws all logic out the window just so we can have some boring explosions for no reason. I honestly hate it. If you care about Harry, why would you send him to somewhere where he can easily be attacked and killed / captured? In the novel, the Burrow is of course under magical ministry protection, but with this, there's just nothing. I guess it was thrown in there to help with the pace, but it does the actual opposite effect. This sequence is just garbage and a complete waste of time. Speaking of a waste of time... Yep, think about it. The Twilight craze was beginning to peak, and this film almost feels like Warner Brothers was paranoid about losing teenage girl fans to it, so the film almost feels like ridiculous pandering to it all. I know I'm getting into legit conspiracy theory levels here, but all of the fascinating, complex, and genuinely interesting backstory was just dropped wholesale from the novel so we can focus on all this teenage wishy-washy garbage that just didn't even work that well in the book to begin it with. Plus, the aforementioned cinematography makes the movie look like it's taking this teen romance garbage so serious it's almost pretentious. Plus, the romance stuff in the novel that does work isn't able to because of... If there's an adaptation-related element that I feel the Harry Potter films miserably failed on in a total train wreck, it's the character of Ginny Weasley. Honestly, in the books, I liked her better than Hermione. And here, she's just there. I don't think it's the actress's fault, it's just the filmmakers. Basically forgot about her for 3 movies. I mean, in Order of the Phoenix, they occasionally had this moment where Ginny just sort of looked at Harry furtively when he was with Cho, but that was it. And all of a sudden, they feel the need to throw her in there for the sake of the romance plot. And without some of the necessary build-up from previous novels, she's just a nothing character that they try to make into something without much luck. She isn't even given a chance to exhibit any of the spunk or attractiveness that made you understand why Harry was suddenly into her. In this movie, he's just suddenly into her because I guess they really wanted to capitalize on that shit. And of course, the movie doesn't end with the maturity of the end of the relationship like in the book. I guess if you just want that, just watch Spider-Man 2002. Most of the final act in here is actually freaking brilliant and overall saves the movie for me. Starting with the emotional scene of Harry getting Slughorn to give him the memory he needs to discover Voldemort with that wonderful speech he gives about Lily. The journey to that cave with the epic score by Hooper. And finally, the ultimate moment at the top of the lightning-struck tower. The entire sequence is where the cinematography actually begins to work. The music is at its absolute finest. The performances, everything just comes together. First off, the dower scene in the cave is practically perfect. It's atmospheric, emotional, and even scary. And of course, the scene where Dumbledore dies is absolutely perfect. Snape is quite an interesting character, isn't he? I've been holding off on talking about him for quite a while throughout 5 installments in this review series, and I think it's finally time to discuss him a little bit. At least impressions up to the big scene that's like the most iconic spoiler since...
I am your father.
First off, Alan Rickman really was the perfect casting for this character. His mannerisms and demeanor are always pitch perfect, even in the installments where he barely merits any lines. He always makes the most of what he's given. Everyone sort of hated this guy constantly, but were always holding back because Dumbledore kept him around for some reason. So when the big, shocking moment happens and Dumbledore is dead, all of the hesitant trust is stripped away and we're just left with the hatred. A completely brilliant way to cap off everything leading into how this character's arc is ultimately resolved. But we'll pick up on that at the right time. In short, it led to the gorgeously scored scene where everyone at Dumbledore's body erases the dark mark from the sky. So in conclusion, Half-Blood Prince is definitely the worst Harry Potter film. It has a muddled romance focus, the actual important story developments are glossed over, and in many places feels like a waste of space. But I feel it's saved from being a bad movie by the performances of all the cast, particularly Gambon, the music, and the beautiful, impactful scene of Dumbledore's death. I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince overall a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can go ahead and check out the other 5 installments in this Harry Potter review series. They'll be linked below and at the end card. Share if you think this video merits it, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you feel sufficiently inclined.